Hey everyone, Cuttleboss here. This is just me. No complex editing. No watchers still. I've recorded an entire review, but I just don't have the time and energy to edit it, at least without dropping the editing quality massively. Life's got a bit more tiring, so until my personal schedule clears up, or if I get a friend of mine to help edit, the next Watcher episodes have to be put on hold. But today's video is not about that. It's about Dragon Ball Z. Anyone who's watched my series knows I love this anime, but with the new Dragon Ball Z movie coming out in like a month or so, and with some recent discussion I've had with some people in my life, I've been considering, is DBZ even good? I wanted to open this discussion. Is DBZ good? I'll give some of my feedback. Originally I planned like this epic saga where I tackled all of DBZ in the most detailed and nerdy form possible. Wayne would go around like in this weird virtual reality world. It would have been fun. But then I realized that some projects are too ambitious, and that unless this became my full-time job through Patreon or something, that cannot happen. The series has like almost 300 episodes, you know? So the first argument I always hear is that DBZ is entirely nostalgic. Alright, very fair argument. In the late 90s and early 2000s, most people did not have access to anime that was not Akira or Vampire Hunter D. DBZ's airing on Toonami was something very different from anything most Western audiences were used to seeing, so when it came by the way it did, it really stuck with us. But yes, the animation is very dated, the story is clearly and admittedly made up as he went along, at least past Frieza. The plot writing also makes more and more of the characters superfluous. The characters lack variance in their fighting styles, so fight scenes can get really redundant. The anime filler has a nasty habit of making a ton of stare-downs and shouting matches. Both the Funimation and the Ocean dubs are really shaky quality, and by the time you get to the Boo Saga, the story is like a parody of itself. These are the actual complaints I have against DBZ. I'll go through them all. DBZ was animated in the 80s and 90s. Some of the animation is really good looking, like most of the energy effects, and some is really bad, like Vegeta here. It also has a very rough look to it that is not present in most animation of the present. Some people like that, a lot of people these days don't. Fights can be quite redundant, people punch each other, throw each other. It can be entertaining for a while, but you gotta be ready for it, and watching too much at once can really drain you. But it works pretty well as a male fantasy. Being able to fly and shoot energy out of my hands was what I wanted to do as a young boy. An adult male. There should not be so much screaming and staring in the series, but that's where the anime filler went. They didn't want to go for massive numbers of filler sagas like later Naruto would do. This is probably the reason why when it was released in America, the soundtrack was redone, so it seemed like more was happening. Oh, by the way, I like the Bruce Faulconer soundtrack, but the original one's not bad. It sometimes evokes kaiju films, and that's pretty cool. The voice acting is also a debated topic. Alright, let's be honest, when this was first dubbed, we had a pretty low bar for localization dubbing. Like, look at Resident Evil.
I'll be examining this. Hope this is not Chris's blood.
So overall, I think, on average, the quality is fine. The early Ocean dub suffered from really bad censorship, which is why Vegeta doesn't threaten to kill people, but rather send them to the next dimension. The original Japanese is pretty good, and it made stars out of people like Norio Wakamoto. The dubs are extremely wild in quality. Over here I had the Funimation dub. I'm only mildly familiar with other dubs. Like, the only thing I know about the Ocean dub mostly is Piccolo sounds awesome, and Goku is voiced by Rolf from Ed, Edd n Eddy. The Funimation dub is extremely inconsistent. Sometimes the acting is great, like when Piccolo or Vegeta die. Or sometimes it's terrible, like when Cell taunts Gohan.
Let me explain something to you. You have to fight. Unless you beat me here today, I'll destroy the Earth! Now how's that for meaning?
As for the characters, people like to say the characters have no personality. Dragon Ball's characters have pretty good, well-defined personalities, except Goku. Vegeta is prideful and eventually discards it. Gohan starts out afraid of his own power and becomes very protective. Piccolo is fairly reserved and wise, developing from his bloodthirsty nature. Tien is Mr. Serious, Yamcha is silly in contrast. Trunks has major daddy issues, Kid Trunks is just sassy and annoying. I think the character interactions are one of the most entertaining parts of the series. Especially when they make fun of people, specifically Krillin or Yamcha.
Gosh, you really care for Goku. Hey, I know! How about we trade mates? Vegeta for Goku! Huh? Vegeta's not as sweet, but he's certainly more dependable. I think it evens out.
Hey, I'm available, ladies. What do you say, huh?
We're talking an even trade. We don't want to downgrade.
But, as the story goes on, it's pretty bad that they become less and less important because of the Super Saiyan fixation, which is easily the worst part of DBZ. Let's talk about the sagas. Okay, Akira Toriyama very clearly only planned until the Frieza saga from his beginnings of Goku in his little mountain tavern. All the build-up and stupidity about the legendary Super Saiyan was that. The Saiyan saga is very solid, shockingly dark, high stakes, heart-wrenching at times too, with a dark parallel between Goku and Vegeta. It is objectively the best saga I find, and also too heavy to rewatch regularly. The Namek saga is notorious for its horrible pacing, but it tried to improve the writing by focusing on characters that could not fight enemies at all, with Gohan and Krillin. And that's really boring because they were always hiding from someone off-screen, so all the enjoyment is derived off watching Vegeta kill side villains. This gets discarded when they get to Frieza, however, and it's like the final boss of Final Fantasy VI. You think I'm kidding? 4 forms that each represent a part of the villain's personality, with his pride being torn apart as the fight kept on going and he just ended up being pathetic in a rotting world? Yeah, Kefka is Frieza. Spread the word. I do like that Toriyama does simple thematic things like showing that inside, Frieza is just a pathetic coward who bullies everyone around him. Then the Android saga made things awkward, like Evil Dead 2. The tone became extremely inconsistent with horrible, threatening villains like Cell. Monsters created by the hands of humans, the people Goku are protecting, mixed in with bizarre humor and much longer periods of no drama. This makes the Android saga the most rewatchable in my opinion for this, since it's pretty campy overall. Oh, and the Kamehameha finale scene is fantastic. Also, it's the first saga where it was not abundantly obvious where the plot was going. And then we get to the Boo saga. It's not good. Teen slice of life into crappy superhero with Gohan, and then when Boo enters the picture, the way the plot goes is extremely contrived at every point. Like, you thought Cell was bad? No. Boo can regenerate into little mini Boos. I mean, he can regenerate from any molecule himself, and now he's taller and stronger. Oh, now he can absorb people like the villain beforehand, and now he's a child. Oh, and we confused, but Goku knew this since the Android saga, and we have Super Saiyan Neanderthal. A lot of the same plot points and powers as Cell. Man with weird hair warns of a new threat. Villain threatens the whole Earth. Villain can absorb people's powers and regenerate. The villain absorbs Android 18. Villain seeks challenge. Villain attempts successfully to blow up Earth. Well, one of them wasn't successful. There are a few things I liked. I liked the multiple Boos representing different parts of its personality. The fact that the Super Saiyan 3 transformation, we actually see consequence on the rest of the world when you power up to those levels. And the great scene of Vegeta's sacrifice that made the saga feel like it blows its load too fast. Alright, those are my thoughts on the sagas. Any other notes? DBZ's other fault is that it's too iconic with everything it's done. It's the most influential shonen manga of this current age, and its influences can be seen in the most popular shonens, One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto. Like, it seems cliche now, but I imagine back then it was a lot more special. I think more in the West too for bringing anime over, since it's not that big in Japan. Think 1984. If you read that book right now, you'd probably not enjoy it that much because everything about it has been seen already. But it gave birth to the popularity of these tropes, so we have to appreciate it for that. So my closing thoughts. I accept DBZ is flawed. I like the characters, I like the basic thematic elements, I like it as a fun piece of work without any big message. I don't like it when the story feels too lazy. I don't like it when the characters become superfluous. But the time of DBZ has passed, and people are probably holding on to it more than they should, myself included. While I'm at it, I highly recommend DBZ Kai. The voice acting is pretty much perfect, and it really fixes up the pacing issues this series has. So, what do you think? Is DBZ good? Is it bad? Is it overrated? Is it a masterpiece? Leave your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. This is Cuttleboss leaving you now to go to a dark world.